The star had stopped pulsing. It no longer blinked like a signal. It simply glowed. We thought that meant peace. We were wrong, because when a signal ends, it doesn't vanish. It echoes. And somewhere in that echo, someone was listening. The archive detected it 2 days after convergence. Not a new signal. A response, encoded in resonance, not language. Carried through gravity shifts, not light. It came from a system known only in myth, Sithra Kel, a place buried in Etherian religion, a world once worshipped, then erased. And now, it was speaking again. Salus showed me the map. It had changed. New points pulsed across the memory weave, not requests, not fragments, demands. They wanted to be heard, but not as victims, not as witnesses, as judges. "You said the memory war was over?" Khan said. "The archive's safe," I replied. "Maybe, but memory doesn't stay quiet for long." Then we listen again. We sent a probe. It vanished. No destruction, no malfunction, just gone, not erased, absorbed. The system consumed signal like breath and returned nothing, which meant we had to go. Not because it was safe, but because it wasn't. Because if memory can consume, it can rewrite. The ship was retrofitted for deep resonance shielding. Salus embedded archive counter-anchors into the hull. Can refused to bring backup. If it's what you say it is, then more voices just give it more to twist. He was right. Some memories don't want an audience. They want a mirror, the moment we crossed into Sithra Kel's edge field. Time bent, not slowed, not warped. Bent. Celis recorded a loop of herself breathing. It played back out of sync. Can's pulse jumped at intervals he didn't feel. And me? I started remembering things that hadn't happened yet. A girl with copper eyes. A star that collapsed inward instead of out. My own voice saying goodbye before I spoke it. Sithra Kel wasn't a planet. It was a memory engine, one that didn't store the past. It stored possibility. And at the center of its field, we found it. Not a monument, not a seed, not a gate. A structure built of light and silence. Waiting, breathing, listening. Salus stared at it and whispered, "That's not archive tech." "Then what is it?" Khan asked. "It's something older." "How much older?" "Old enough that it didn't wait for us to find it." She looked at me. "It waited for you." The structure didn't move. It didn't pulse. It didn't flash warnings. It didn't open. It just watched. That was the word Salus used. "It's watching us," she said. "Not with eyes, not with sensors. With memory." Khan placed his hand on the hull. "This thing is older than metal." He was right. It didn't feel constructed. It felt grown, like it had formed naturally from the idea of memory itself. We scanned for a docking point. None. No hatches, no windows, no seams. But the archive on my wrist began to hum. The spiral glowed. One ring retracted. The others burned brighter. "It's sinking," I said. "With what?" Salus asked. "Me." A beam of light extended from the structure toward our ship. Not aggressive. An invitation. Can drew his weapon anyway. "Let me guess. You're going inside." "I have to." "Then I'm going too." "No," I said. "It only called for one." "And you're sure that one is you?" "I'm not sure, but I'm the only one it recognized." I stepped onto the beam. It felt like walking through water that wasn't wet. Each step heavier than the last. Not physically, emotionally. The structure wasn't trying to kill me. It was trying to know me, and that meant I had to know myself. The interior unfolded with no walls, just light, endless, shifting, shaped by my thoughts. Every moment I recalled. The first voice I heard in Arcadia, The day I opened the spiral gate, Celisa's hand in mine after we rebuilt the council. It projected around me like memory holograms stitched from stardust. But then it changed. Not into my memories, into ones I'd never seen. A woman on a balcony staring at a star that blinked. A child coding memory into sand. A being made of light speaking to an audience of silence. Each vision ended the same way, with the star watching, not blinking, not burning, watching, and then the voice returned. "You've carried us well." "Who are you?" I asked. "We are what remains of the first storytellers, the ones who mapped thought into structure, who turned memory into sky." "Why now? Why speak now?" "Because you brought it back, not the archive." The belief the room changed again. I was no longer alone. Celis stood across from me, but not my Celis, a future one, older, eyes tired from knowing too much. She stepped toward me and spoke words I hadn't said yet. "You'll have to choose, not between truth and silence, but between story and self." The spiral on my wrist faded, the rings dimmed, and a final symbol appeared. A constellation, one I hadn't seen since before the war, a child's drawing of the sky. "You remembered this?" I asked. "You did? You just didn't know it mattered." The star spoke again. "We don't want control. We don't want worship. We only want the stories that no one else is strong enough to carry. And if I say yes, you become the final light. And if I say no, then the light fades, and someone else will have to try again. Another cycle, another pain." I thought of the boy from the library of the unspoken, the one who said, "We tried." I thought of my other self, the one in the spiral gate who said he chose to become the question. And I thought of Celis, of her silence, her strength. And I answered, "Yes, I'll carry it." The light wrapped around me, not bright, not loud, just certain. And when I opened my eyes, I was back in the ship. Celis and Khan stared at me. "It's done," I said. "What happened?" Celis asked. I looked at my wrist. The spiral was gone, replaced by a single dot of white light. I said yes. To what? I turned to the window, watched the star still watching, and I said, to becoming what remembers after remembering ends. The ship was quiet, not the silence of sleep, the silence of something watching. Celis ran diagnostics. Khan checked the archive, but neither found an answer for what had changed, because nothing was wrong. Everything was too right. The spiral was gone from my wrist. In its place, a dot. No movement, no signal, just a single fixed point of white light. But when I closed my eyes, I heard it speak, not aloud, not through tech, but through certainty. The story must continue. What story? I asked. The one that began before you were born, the one that made you a voice, a mirror, a carrier. Celis stared at me when I told her. It's not speaking to me, she said. Not this time. Khan stood back. Then it's personal. No, I said. It's foundational. What do you mean? It's not about what I carry now. It's about what I pass on. The system began to collapse behind us. Sethrakel folded inward, the memory field retracting like a dream being undreamed. We need to jump, Celis said. We can't, I replied. Why not? I held out my hand. The dot blinked once, and suddenly we weren't in the ship anymore. We stood on a cliff made of light. A projection? A memory? I didn't know, but it felt final. The horizon spun with fragments, planets, names, voices, all flowing into a single line. The ones who remember become the ones who decide. A shape formed in the sky. Not a person, not a god, just a presence. The same one from the spiral, from the library, from the gate. Do you believe memory should be perfect? It asked. No. Do you believe truth can survive without help? Not always. Then you must choose. Do we restore what was, or create what could have been? Salis gasped. That's what it's asking? Yes, I said. It doesn't want to protect the past anymore. It wants to rebuild it. Can stepped forward. That's too much power for one person. The presence pulsed. Then don't choose alone. A circle of light formed around us. 12 chairs. Empty. Fill them. With who? I asked. With the ones who have carried truth, across time, across fear. I looked at Salis. You were first. She stepped into the circle. A chair lit. I looked at Can. You were the cynic. You never trusted the archive, but you still fought for it. He nodded. A second chair lit. The others came next, from colonies we'd freed, from voices we'd restored, from species that hadn't trusted us, but now stood with us. Each one entered the circle. Each one sat, and the light waited. 12 chairs, Salis whispered. You're the last. I stood at the center. The sky spiraled above me. The star blinked once. This is the Council of Remembrance, and its first task is you. Me? I asked. Do you remain the voice of the archive, or do you pass it forward and become its listener? Salis looked at me. It's your choice. No, I said, it's all of ours. The chairs lit together, one by one. Let him choose. Let him guide. Let him rest. Let him speak. I took the 13th chair, and the light answered. Then let us begin again. The cliff faded. The ship returned. The dot on my wrist now pulsed, not as command, as consensus. I was no longer the only voice. Now, we all were. The council was born in light. 12 voices, 12 perspectives. One purpose, to protect memory from becoming myth. But even the brightest truth casts a shadow, and in that shadow, a memory stirred. It began with a loop anomaly, a flicker in the archive's third tier, a section long stabilized, filled with confirmed memories. Yet one thread kept breaking sync. No error, no interference. It refused to be remembered. Salis ran diagnostics. It's not corrupt, she said. Then what is it? I asked. It's resisting. That's not possible. Apparently it is. The thread belonged to a name we didn't recognize. Noval. No species designation, no planet, just a memory tag and a single sentence. He chose not to be remembered. Khan stared at the file. Is that even allowed? Every voice we've ever gathered was eager to speak, Salis said, or desperate to be heard. But not this one. No. We activated the loop, not to extract, to observe. What we saw was silence. A man, tall, robed, faceless, standing in front of a memory recorder and doing nothing, not speaking, not crying, just existing. And in that existence was resistance. Why won't it show us more? Can asked. Because it wasn't meant to, I said. This is the story he didn't want told. We debated whether to delete it. Salis argued for respect. Can warned of danger. But I couldn't look away, because when I watched that figure, I felt something. Familiar. A weight I couldn't name. The archive pinged, an override request, not from within the system, from the 7th star. A new thread appeared beneath the Noval loop. If you seek to lead memory, you must first carry the one who chose to forget. Salis gasped. It's calling you back. To where? To where he buried the truth. We jumped to the location embedded in the thread. A dead world, not destroyed, not collapsed, abandoned. No archive tech, no loop beacons, just a single structure, a stone altar, cracked, wind-worn, etched with the spiral, and one line beneath it. This is where I disappeared. I stepped forward, touched the stone, and the memory ignited. Suddenly I was inside it, not as a viewer, as a participant. I was Orin. I felt his thoughts, his doubt, his grief. He had once been a rememberer, one of the first. But when the archive chose to edit a loop for clarity, he walked away, not in anger, in sorrow, because truth, even when kind, must never be filtered. He built the altar and buried his own story beneath it. He removed his identity so no one would remember his face. Only the choice. The loop ended. I staggered back. Salis caught me. "What did you see?" "The cost of peace." I stood, looked at the altar, and made a decision. We added Orin Val's thread to the archive manually. No edits, no context, just a single caption. He chose not to be remembered, and we chose to remember him anyway. The council voted unanimously, and for the first time, we added a category to the archive: the remembered anonymous, voices who asked for silence but still shaped the galaxy. Because sometimes the stories we're not meant to carry are the ones that make us who we are. After Orin Val's thread was added, the archive shifted again, not violently, quietly. A low hum in the deep root channels, a new rhythm forming beneath the pulse of the seventh star. Can noticed it first. There's something underneath the archive. Underneath? Salis asked. A second resonance. We traced it. It wasn't interference. It wasn't sabotage. It was a message, one never meant to be heard. How long has it been there? I asked. Forever, Salis whispered. Since before the archive existed. Maybe since before any of us existed. The signal was buried inside the galactic dark band, a stretch of space no light escapes. A place so quiet, even gravity forgets to speak. It's called the Null Rift. No systems chart it, no vessels enter it. And now? It was calling. We jumped blind. No visuals, no landmarks, just a slow pull of gravity wrapping around us like a hand. We drifted for 6 hours before it appeared. Not a planet, not a gate, a hole, cut from space like a wound. Inside it, nothing. But from that nothing came the message. You heard the light, now hear the dark. Salis was pale. Are you sure this is a good idea? No, I said. But it's the next part of the story. We transmitted the archive pulse into the rift. It didn't echo back. It absorbed. Then it spoke. We were the ones who were never written. Who are you? I asked. We are the forgotten before forgetting began. You want to be remembered? We want to be understood. The rift shimmered. A ship appeared, old, wrecked, held together by memory lattice and gravitational tape. No insignia, no name. Inside, a voice still recording. The log played. I was part of the first memory thread. But I chose the void because the truth was too heavy to carry. And now I send this into the black so someone else will choose differently. If you find this, it means you're strong enough to hear the silence. I sat in the pilot chair for hours, letting the voice loop, letting the meaning settle. Not fear, not power, just wait. Salis stood beside me. We have to carry it. All of it? I asked. Yes, even the parts that don't ask to be saved. We added the signal to the archive, not in the core, in the foundation, underneath the remembered, filed as the silence that knew. Because sometimes the most powerful memory is the one no one spoke aloud. And when we left the Null Rift, the seventh star blinked once more, not white, black. A final message appeared. You've heard the light. You've heard the silence. Now it's time to decide. What will you become? I looked at the archive, then at the sky, and I answered, we will become both. After the null rift, the archive changed. Not its systems, not its structure, its intent. It no longer waited for commands. It offered. New threads appeared not from memory logs, but from decisions made in real time. Salus called them living threads. Each time someone made a choice inspired by a story. The archive created a ripple, not an opinion, not a vote, a record, a new kind of truth born from what we did after hearing the voices of the past. The archive is evolving, Salus said. Into what? Khan asked. Into a participant. And what happens when memory starts remembering us before we finish being who we are? Then we either control it or we trust it. The council debated for hours. Half wanted to lock the archive's evolution, to preserve its structure, its filters, its safeguards. The other half wanted to let it grow, let it become a story engine instead of a storage vault. I listened, watched the arguments flow, until the archive interrupted. A message appeared across every terminal. Do you want to be remembered, or do you want to be understood? Silence fell. Even the council couldn't answer it easily, because being remembered meant control, but being understood? That required vulnerability. I say we vote, I said. Not just here, every citizen, every species, every voice that lives under the seventh star. Salus nodded. Let the archive listen. And so we built the first open memory election. No ballots, just one decision, cast from every mind connected to the system. Do we preserve the archive, or let it become a living storyteller? The vote lasted 3 cycles. Billions participated, and when the light returned from the seventh star, it pulsed 7 times. Consensus achieved. And the result? Khan asked. The archive displayed it, not as a number, as a phrase. We trust the story to tell itself. I stood at the center of the memory bridge as the data reshaped. New threads formed instantly. Moments that hadn't even finished already folded into memory structure. It was beautiful, terrifying. Right. Salus joined me. This is what it means to give up control. We didn't give it up, I said. We gave it back. To who? To the future? From that moment forward, the archive no longer belonged to the past. It became a river, flowing forward, always recording, always asking, why did you choose that? And in every answer, a new story was born. But we still needed a voice, not a controller, not a gatekeeper, a narrator, one who wouldn't filter, one who wouldn't decide, only tell. The archive created the role itself, the voice of continuance, elected by resonance, not votes, chosen from those who carried memory not with pride, but with humility. And when the system selected me, I said yes, not because I deserved it, but because I knew what it meant, to speak the story and let others shape what it becomes. I sat at the terminal, opened the channel, and said the first words of the new cycle. This is the beginning of the next version of all of us. And across the stars, people listened. Not because they had to, because they chose to. The archive had been open for 47 cycles, no shutdowns, no breaches, no interference. But we all knew something was coming, because systems built to remember don't just store, they evolve, and sometimes they offer you something you didn't ask for, not because it's needed, but because you're finally ready. The notification came without sound, a single line glowing across my console. A story has chosen you. Salus froze when she saw it. That's not a user prompt. No, I said, it's voluntary. From who? We don't know yet. The archive began playback. No visuals, just a voice. Faint, timid, familiar. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just feel like someone might listen this time. My name is Malin, and I'm nobody. The story played. A boy raised on a freighter that never made port, born to silence, grew up in gravity simulations, taught himself memory coding by watching old training modules in secret. I wasn't supposed to be anything, but one day I started writing my own story into empty loop space. It wasn't meant to be read, but now I hear people are listening again. So here I am. He told us about losing his father to radiation sickness, how he memorized every breath in the med bay so he could play it back when he missed his voice, how he spent 12 years building a virtual world just to place his mother's favorite forest inside it, how he never showed it to anyone until now. I don't care if it's remembered. I just want someone to know it existed. Silas stared at the waveform. It was clean, unedited, perfect. A raw story so personal, it hurt. The archive presented two options. Do you wish to elevate this story to the core loop? Yes, no. Khan muttered, It's beautiful, but if we elevate this one, we'll have to elevate thousands. Silas looked at me. That's the point. I chose yes, and the archive pulsed, not just inside the system, across the entire colony. A new loop formed in the sky. For the first time ever, a citizen story became part of the cosmic pattern. And it wasn't a war or a revolution. It was a forest, a boy, a heartbeat. The council was stunned. What precedent does this set? They asked. A perfect one, I said, that the story of one unknown life can hold the same space as a galaxy-wide event. The archive added a third designation that night. The remembered, the unspoken, the offered, the ones who shared without being asked, who gave their voice just to let it go. We launched a new platform the next day, the Story Sky, a constellation of shared memories visible from every colony. Not filed, not ranked, just seen. People could walk outside and literally look up and say, "That star is my story." And the archive would remember it. Silas looked at me that evening as the stars blinked in new patterns. You know what we've built? What? A system that teaches people their quietest truth is strong enough to light a sky. And somewhere out there, I hoped Malin saw it, his forest, his breath, his gift, floating with the others now, not alone, not lost, just offered, and finally received. I thought the archive would end with me, but memory has a way of disobeying. It doesn't wait for approval. It doesn't ask who's in charge. It simply speaks when it's ready. And this time? It spoke without permission. It began in a school. A child, barely old enough to hold a stylus, opened a blank archive console. She whispered a story, not a dramatic one, not a war, not a legend, just a moment, the first time she saw a bird fly, the way her mother held her hand, the shape of the stars outside her bedroom window. The system listened, logged it, processed it, then amplified it. Within minutes, every terminal on the outer rings received her story, and people listened. They didn't question it. They didn't debate it. They cried, because the story was simple and true and not meant to be shared, but it needed to be. Celise smiled when she heard it. The archive is choosing its own voices now. I thought we had control, Khan muttered. We gave it freedom, I said. Now it's using it. For a moment I wondered if that was dangerous, but then the light pulsed again. A second story from a miner about the first time they saw a sunrise on a terraformed moon. Then a third from a Karen priest about watching their temple crumble during the first collapse. And then dozens, hundreds, all playing without filter, without structure, just truth. The archive wasn't broken, it was alive. People began submitting stories not out of need, but because they wanted their quietest moments to exist. A kiss, a mistake, a laugh, a regret. And the archive received them all like a parent, finally ready to hear everything their child had been afraid to say. I stood in the core chamber as the stories played on, and I said nothing, because nothing needed to be said. Khan sat beside me. You realize this is it, right? What is? The point where we stop being the storytellers and just let the story tell itself. Salis joined us. Then what do we do now? I smiled. We listen, and if we're lucky, we get remembered. Outside the station, the seventh star pulsed a new color. Not white, not gold, not black. A shade we didn't have a name for, because no one had ever told this version of the story before. And as it pulsed, the sky lit with thousands of new threads. Not from the past, not from data, from choice. People choosing to let their truth become part of something bigger. And that night, the archive didn't close. It didn't pause. It just kept going. Because memory finally felt safe. And I, the voice of continuance, sat in silence, happy, not because I spoke, but because I no longer had to. Because when story becomes strong enough to speak without permission, that's when it starts to last forever.